Okay, well, look, let's just jump in. So I know when we had a chat about what we were going to cover, one of the things that I absolutely love about you and Sen. So if anyone isn't aware, Chris has a business partner called Sen Wharton. He's written a fantastic book, Predictable Property Profits, and that is all about finding the need. So i.e. the end consumer, and that's something that I also talk a lot with Paul Merrick. So, you know, it seems to be that the successful people are talking a lot of the same stuff. So yeah, just tell us a bit what exactly purpose-driven development means to you.
Okay, so this was essentially when we were first starting out in SA, we were essentially, if anyone remembers the old classic movie Field of Dreams, well, we were using that philosophy when we started. It was very much a build it and they will come strategy, which, as you know, is not a very good strategy. And so while we were getting excited and we were going out and getting this business off the ground, we were taking on properties in the centre of Edinburgh, thinking this is brilliant, this is really good. How can we go wrong? We're finding city centre, really prime positioned properties that would serve, you know, the tourist market predominantly is where we started out. And that was great during the festival. As anyone's aware of Edinburgh Festival, about 1.5 billion people come through over that 4 or 5 weeks. So it's a very, very busy time. And, you know, we did very, very well. We made, I think, net about £2,500 profit in the first month on our first property, 1-bedroom rent to rent. And we thought, this is great. As we transitioned into the winter months, obviously, things quietened down a little bit. People were cottoning on to serviced accommodation, Airbnb, and it got very quiet. And so we hit the January of 2017 with now 4 properties. We've got the first one in July in 2016. We got to January in 2017, and our business was making a loss. And so essentially, you know, this was no steady foundation to be building our business off. So we sort of sat down thinking, okay, what can we do to make this more predictable, make it more of a steady income stream, and make it so it's clearly not loss-making. We were having to subsidise it at times through December and January. And so that really put us in a thinking mode of, okay, well, where are our guests coming from? How can we find long-term bookings? And what can we do to try and take the risk and to take the guesswork out of these properties? Because we had big visions, big goals of having 100 properties in a portfolio. And as a lot of people do when they come through the mentoring mastermind tables, they've got these big grandiose goals of having a huge portfolio. And what we realized that we just couldn't build that portfolio and the strategy that we were deploying at the time. So for us, the whole purpose-driven approach, whether it be through SA, development, acquisitions, whatever it might be, it was born out of that quiet, quite stressful couple of months leading into 2017, where we decided to, okay, well, what's bringing people in? We'd heard about contractors and whatnot coming in for specifically the SA world here. And so we started looking at a handful of different areas, not just Edinburgh, to see, okay, what infrastructure projects are going on? What development projects are going on? What is bringing contractors into these areas for long periods of time? We'd heard of people getting 3 months, 6 months bookings, but we just didn't really know where to start. And so we got to work, Sen and myself, hitting the desk, hitting the computer, making calls, and really looking at every resource we could find to try and understand what would bring people into our properties, other than just putting it on Airbnb, Booking.com, and really hoping that people would come and book the properties. What could we do to take the bull by the horns and get in front of people? And that led to reaching out to a number of different accommodation brokers, if you like. And over the course of that January, February, we spoke to a number of different companies that place builders, specifically contractors, in accommodation. And that led to a relationship with 2 specific companies, one predominantly who had a very good relationship inside a local power plant, energy from waste plant that was being developed near where we live, right in our goldmine area. And so that was the sort of light bulb moment that, okay, hang on a minute, this guy has got 20 people or 30 people coming in from different parts of Europe, different parts of the UK, and they needed accommodating for 3 months, 6 months, a year. And so through building that relationship, we were able to really identify, right, this is the way to really establish this relationship. This is the way to build the business up. And one day in January, Sen got a call from this broker who we're still in touch with, who we still work with to this day, to ask if we could accommodate, I think it was 5 guys coming to work on one of these energy from waste plants, but they needed the place for, I think it was for 5 months. So at that point, we hit the phones. It was great. Yeah, this is exactly what we're looking for. Like, this stuff actually works. So at that point, it was a case of hitting the phones. We didn't have properties in the specific area at the time. It was closer to where we live, a little bit further out of Edinburgh. And so it was a case of trying to find other serviced accommodation operators that we could place the booking with in the short term until we could find property. And then at that point, we could transition them into our property once we found somewhere. So both of us hit the phones, and Sen managed to actually identify a farmer close by, within 5 minutes of where he lives, actually, who had just a standard rental property. And that was our first contractor rent-to-rent serviced accommodation property that we took on. I'm coming to the development bit in a minute, but this is all giving context as to how we sort of approached this. And so that first property took us from making a loss to turning a profit of just north of £1,800 that first month in Amazing. 45 days. So within the course of January and first 2 weeks of February, we transitioned from loss making to having an idea of this is a predictable way to grow a portfolio. So we then applied that to everything we did moving forward. We nurtured that relationship. We kept in touch with this guy, and we've now just used that philosophy for identifying the demand. So for you guys listening, if you've read Sen's book, or if you do read Sen's book, Predictable Property Profits, you'll hear us talking about the D.I.C.E model. And that for us is identifying the demand, finding the solution. So D is for demand, I is for identifying the solution, C is for gaining some form of commitment. So with these specific companies that we were speaking to, we were finding out exactly what they needed, how many bedrooms, for how long, for how many people, and what distance did it need to be from the specific site. So that allowed us to get very, very focused on what we were looking for. We were able to get a level of commitment. So C is a commitment, and then E is for execute. It's take all that information, take all that data, and just go out and hit the roads, hit the phones, hit the agents, find the properties. So that way it's done in a very, very predictable way, removing the guesswork. So once we'd established that, we ran that philosophy for 2017 until current day. So what's that, 6 years? And that then got applied to everything else we did. So while we were building up the SA business, we were also building up our commercial conversion business. We were using my build team and my former expertise in the construction side of things to be able to really grow the development business, albeit that was a lesser focus. If you're familiar with 70-20-10, SA was our 70, development was our 20, and our 10 was our training and mentoring at the time. And so we started just using that approach to everything we did, whether it was looking at commercial properties, whether it was looking at commercial conversion opportunities, land development, or even just buy-to-let. It's really just having a very, very clear understanding of who are we trying to serve with this property, where do they need to be, and what exactly do they need. So that, if that gives a bit of a concept and so how the approach was born, I guess it's like any business really, in understanding who's a customer avatar. It was applying that business approach to a property portfolio and a property business. And that was kind of when we saw a light bulb was that we're not just trying to grow an SA portfolio here, we're really trying to create a sustainable business around property. And we can use the same approach to all the different strategies within property that we work on.
Amazing. It is so key, isn't it? And I think we talk a lot about that on here, is that it is really the business of property. It's not just we're just going to go and get some property and make it work. We really have to take into consideration how to make it into a business, and not only that, but a sustainable business. So this is really interesting.